fun chat tonight. So I'm really glad you guys got to see this. I would like to welcome on the cast of this amazing film and the filmmaker. So I'm going to start with John Cho, everybody. The wonderful Debra. Guys, I'm so excited to introduce this new filmmaker. I think we're going to see some really big things coming from him. So everyone please welcome Aneesh Chaganty. So, initial thoughts. What did everyone think?
Imagine like everyone started doing things together.
That could have gone bad.
We gotta go.
I had to do a lot of cheerleading here. So there's so many questions that I have for you guys. I know you guys do too. But Aneesh, I actually wanted to start with you. So the first 10 minutes of this movie were so unexpected for me. I did not expect to get emotional and cry within the first 10 minutes. So talk me through just crafting that scene, why you felt it was so important, and if you were looking to pay homage to a particular Pixar film in general.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. First of all, I co-wrote this film with, I'm new at this film. Hi. I co-wrote this movie with one other person who also produced it. And so I just want to, they're in the audience tonight, so Seb Ohanian is over right there. He wrote the film with me, in the white, with the popcorn, identify as a cocktail master, he's smarter than I am. And then the other person who worked on the film is next to him, Natalie Kasabian with the camera over there. She produced the film, and it's sort of like all of us made the movie. So anyways, to kind of take you through the logic of the opening sequence, Seb and I never wanted to make a movie that took place on a computer screen. For so long, we kept saying no, 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 no. It would be a gimmick, it wouldn't work, it wouldn't be emotional, it wouldn't be thrilling, it wouldn't be engaging, it wouldn't be cinematic. And after saying no, long story short, but after saying no for about like a month and a half or so, about a month and a half, you know, we ended up texting one another one day, just like trying to think of a way into the story, and we were totally fine if we never did. The production company really wanted a film that took place on screens, and we just didn't want to do it. One day, I texted Seb being like, hey, I have a really weird idea for an opening scene, and he goes, I have a weird idea for an opening scene. And we pitch each other the exact same opening scene, which is the opening scene here, which we like to describe as Up meets a Google commercial. And, you know, I was working at Google at the time. I was writing and directing their commercials, and both of us had seen Up and loved Up. And, you know, for us, it was this we knew that, especially as filmmakers, but definitely as an audience member, there's very few people who go into a movie that takes place on a computer screen and being like, the bar is high. You know, like, it's just like, how are they going to do this? How are we going to pull this off? How is it going to be emotional? So for us, we knew that in the beginning, we had to do something that would almost show every card that we had and be like, these are all the tricks that we can show you. And like, just forget the fact that it's taking place on a computer screen. You're still going to feel, you're still going to emote, you're still going to be thrilled and feel like you're being led on a story by storytellers as opposed to just watching a gimmick unfold the entire time. So once we kind of came up with that hook for it, we just started writing it and making it just like we would make a Google commercial.
Well, I thought it was really effective, and it definitely got us like engaged into that family and the drama like right away. So I want to take the next one to John Cho here. Hi, John Cho. How's it going?
Hello.
You won for me. No one's ever done that. So just tell me about the experience, first of all, when you're getting this project and realizing that you're going to be acting on your own, in rooms on your own for the most part. You're not really interacting with anybody else here, and you're just screaming and talking to screens. So how was that experience for you?
Yeah, it was tricky. It was not like anything that I'd ever done, and I never felt particularly secure, I think, throughout filming it. You know, we're taught to look into people's faces and react, and so when there's nobody in front of you, I just felt a little lost. And then, you know, secondarily, I think the absence of other angles was tough. For me, like knowing, oh, well, we're going to go from this to a close-up, then probably to a two-shot, and all of that. It's sort of like being on stage, but alone.
I feel like we saw that, but we really see the anguish you went through. Were there days you were driving yourself crazy? Or?
In general, the answer is yes.
Okay, that's good. I was feeling like we saw that playing out. So it's actually been, so first of all, this is coming on the heels of Crazy Rich Asians, and we're seeing this monumental moment for Asian American representation on screen, finally. How was that? But we're so happy it was so amazing to see this Asian American family represented so beautifully. How important was it to see that, and how important, Aneesh, especially for you, was it to sort of put together this family?
Very would be the answer. But you know, from day one, you know, we wanted to write a family that was Asian American specifically, and the reason for doing that, or wanting to do that, was a couple. Like, number one, I grew up in San Jose, and you know, my family is in the tech industry, and I basically wanted to cast a family that looked like the families that they would have over for dinner or work with, or kind of like we'd hang out with. And number two, you know, I grew up. Hi. Hope you guys liked it.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Oh, no, totally good. Just hang out, totally good. That was great. Anyways, yeah. So second reason.
We're shaming them. We probably
Yeah, no shame. I hope they come back. But yeah, no. Second reason was, you know, I grew up watching a bunch of movies. Like, I've obviously, like probably most of you guys here, had been growing up watching movies. But my favorite movies were always like thrillers and action movies and mystery movies, and movies that like had nothing to do with, you know, identity or like identifying yourself as a certain race or culture and having that be specific to the plot. There were always plots about like breaking into the CIA or like hacking into the server or like, you know, stealing diamonds. And those are the films that I really always liked, and I never saw myself in those films, and I never saw anyone that looked close to myself in those films. So here we figured, like, why not take this opportunity, if we have this deck of cards, to like slide a card in there that we never have seen before, and like never talk about it, you know, and just like totally normalize something that I feel like hasn't been normalized in a crazy amount of time. And it's insane because, you know, we found out the other day that we are the first mainstream American, like mainstream Hollywood thriller to ever have an Asian American lead in it, and like, which is, yeah, it's cool, it's crazy. We never knew that going in, but like, I realized, like, A, that's insane, but B, my big hope for this is that people in 10 years look back on this movie and are like wondering what was so progressive about it. Because there really isn't anything progressive about it. The only thing progressive about it is that it hasn't happened before. So, but yeah, it was always very important, and it was Korean American because John's Korean American and John's an incredible actor.
So some of you may remember a couple of years ago there was this great social media movement called Starring John Cho. You guys remember that? And essentially just all these movies with John Cho photoshopped into the leading male role as he should have been. Well, he should have been starring in them, not photoshopped. Anyways. But anyway, so it's been 2 years and you are starring in a film like this, finally. Tell me, just reflect on that moment.
Well, I've been asked a lot about that hashtag since it came out, and you know, I've been asked a lot about it on this, you know, as we're promoting this film. And I was thinking today that, you know, the dream of that hashtag was, hey, put John Cho or an Asian person in these big-time Hollywood films. And it was all about casting Asian people in these films. And, you know, I never was offered the Bond movie. and it's
Yes.
yeah. And I'm not in I'm not the next Batman, and I'm not in Avengers. However, the two features that I've done since that hashtag came out were Columbus and now Searching, and they were both directed by Asian American men. And the fact that I'm starring in their movies and that there was a movement to make them hits or to make them successful, rather than to put Asian people in a successful movie, it was to make an Asian directed and a movie that was directed by an Asian American, starring an Asian American, successful. I like the fact that starring John Cho ended that way.
Okay, that's a good way of looking.
Yeah. Which is a way of saying thank you if you cared, and that's part of the calculus of why you showed up tonight. Thank you so much.
It's so great to see this movement happening finally. Speaking of the progressive element in this movie, I've got to say, I did not, and I'm so excited to talk about this finally because you guys have seen this. I was so excited to see Debra Messing play someone a little manipulative and cute. We're not used to this.
I was too.
I was super excited to, I did not expect that from your character, so when it happened, I was like, yes, I'm invested, show me more. So tell me just about that character, the twist you go through, and what that meant to you.
Well, when I read the script and I got to the end, I was like, what? and then I was assuming that I was like the 71st actress that he had offered the role to, because I'm not the obvious person to cast in this role. And so I was immediately incredibly grateful to everybody involved in making that decision. It was incredibly difficult because my character is the only one who is having this secondary experience through the entire film that nobody else knows about. And I realized when I read the script that the only way that I would be able to act it is if the two of us were on the same page of exactly how things progressed moment by moment. And so I said to Aneesh, okay, I'm gonna have to ask you some questions. And he's like, okay, just email them to me. Cut to 5 pages single-spaced. And he writes
Really
back.
interesting font, too.
Yes, he writes back, oh, okay. I need a minute, but I'm really interested in these questions. And so we spent a good amount of time really sort of getting it as specific as possible. And then I was able to feel like I could negotiate it. But my hope was that it would be a surprise for everybody when they saw it the first time, and then they would want to go back and see the second time and be able to then see the underbelly of everything that was playing.
It's being someone who's seen this movie more than twice. Watching Debra the second or third time is the coolest thing ever because there are so many little things and clues that you're giving away that like nobody really knows. It's just like you clock it as odd. You're like, oh, that's odd, that's odd, that's odd, that's odd, that's odd, and then like you watch it, it's like all makes sense. I just love watching it second and third time. I've seen it north of 50, but you know.
No, but I was excited, and I do hope that it will make people in our industry sort of think that I'm capable of doing things other than just being funny.
Yeah.
We were talking at Sundance, so I think there's a second reading of the film in which Debra's character is the protagonist. And because we were saying that this movie should be subtitled, or it should be Searching, Parenting is So Fucking Hard. And it's like these twin stories of parents who are trying to do the right thing for their children, but are failing, and it's so tragic that way. And so there is a reading of the film where you just follow Detective Vic, and you say, oh, that is so tragic that that had to happen between her and her child.
I agree that it was difficult to not empathize with what she was doing, but I will say I love seeing you play a little bit on the darker side of things. Let's hope that happens again.
Oh, honey, I can go dark.
Good. Let's make all of that happen. I'd love to open this up for a couple of questions from you guys.